Hello. Noah's Ark has been rediscovered in the southern gorge of Greater Mount Ararat between 3,900 and 4,700 meters above sea level. The 158-meter barge is located 4 to 11 meters under the surface of the gorge under many strata or layers of lithic material, rock layers, and ice. It's definitely a barge, 158 meters in length, and it has all the characteristics of a barge. Namely, it's built from seafaring woods, namely Cupressa sempervirens, the Mediterranean cypress. All the artifacts and assemblage are originally from the Levant. It's coated on the exterior and interior the barges, and also many artifacts are covered with two types of sealant, both a cypress sap and also a petroleum-based bitumen sealant. Other characteristics of the barge are large sloping ramps that go to thousands of cages, measuring between 20 centimeters in width to 4 meters. Also, the cages and the pens are filled with every type of non-skeletal animal byproduct, from fecal remains to hair, fur, exoskeletons, scutes, discarded skins, particularly of the reptiles. So you have a huge array of mammal, avian, reptile, amphibian, and insect remains within Noah's Ark. There is not only wonderful and comprehensive animal remains, but also an archaeobotanical assemblage that is truly remarkable, namely filled with every type of pro-domesticate and pre-domesticate cereal grain, and also this late Epipaleolithic diet of sisser, chickpea, pisum, pea, and Vicia urvilea, bitter vetch, that cover the bottoms of these large cargo holds, which are lined with clay and wattle, or tree stems, bundles of tree stems, wrapped in flaxen cords to reduce the moisture in these cargo holds. A wonderful archaeological site. The site measures 158 meters in length and corresponds to every description that you have in Genesis, the Quran, and by Berosus, Josephus, and in one account tied with Alexander the Great. So now the question is that how did we, as anthropologists and archaeologists and searchers for the Ark, miss the site? How was this site hidden for over 2,000 years since 247 BC? I was very fortunate because I was able not only to be at the site, but also study the artifacts that were from the site in Doğubayazıt, within the structure itself, and also 6 assemblages that were carried by the Armenian guides that led people to Noah's Ark during the latter part of the 1800s and the early part of the 1900s. So what I'd like to discuss is the methodologies Armenians used at the beginning of the 1900s until 1907, when the site was closed down at the direction of the Catholicos, the head of the Armenian Apostolic Church. And these artifacts were transported to what is now the Republic of Georgia. It was very interesting, and further research is going to be completed by Georgian, Turkish, and Armenian anthropologists on these individuals who were the descendants of these Ark guides, and how and why the Ark was hidden for so long. Let me tell you why it was hidden. The principal reason was Armenian nationalism. The Armenians believed that they are the chosen people to protect Noah's Ark and to keep it secret. It was also the symbol of the Armenian nation. Haik, the ancestor of the Armenian people was, according to the Armenians, the great-grandson of Noah. And the Armenian people were chosen by God to protect the ark, to keep it secret, and to prevent people from destroying or detrimentally affecting the ark. Now, what were the methods and the means the Armenians used at the beginning of the 1900s to protect the ark? First of all, Armenian elites, namely the office of the Catholicos, the head of the Armenian Apostolic Church, selected only elite Armenians, scholars, philanthropists, militia leaders, and a small group of Americans and Russians that were prestigious, had means, but also contributed to Armenian culture and Armenian nationalism. These were individuals that ran orphanages or contributed monies or helped in terms of the defense or the projection of the Armenian militias to try to secure independence from the Ottoman and then later the Republic of Turkey, or Türkiye as it is now referred to establish Armenian independence in Western Armenia around the area of Greater Mount Ararat. So Armenian elites and prominent Americans and Russians approached the Catholicos. And the office of the Catholicos thoroughly vetted these individuals, made sure they were pro-Armenian, and determined if they could keep the location of the ark a secret. They wouldn't reveal the location of the ark, and they were told to swear oaths. Not only were they administered oaths, but then they had to pay. For Americans, it was around $5,000, and for Russians, it was around 6,000 rubles. And they felt that the ruble was a little less secure than the American dollar, which by that time was very strong. Now, what does this translate into in terms of modern currency? Between $150,000 and $175,000. And that is very crucial when we're discussing the rediscovery of Noah's Ark. Now, once these individuals paid the $5,000 or the 6,000 rubles, they were then given guides, and these guides led them to the southern villages, the southern hamlets outside Greater Mount Ararat. And as we saw from a previous discussion, the site is located in the southern gorge, and all the Armenian hamlets, or most of them, are on the southern end. And this was instructive because there was a collection of several Armenian families that were responsible for not only protecting the site, but also guiding these foreigners or elite Armenians into Noah's Ark at the beginning of the 1900s. And here were several of the methodologies. First, if they were strong individuals, they were led to different hamlets. Now, if they were a weaker individual or perhaps more elderly, they were put near a hamlet near Noah's Ark, near the southern gorge. The Armenian guides and the Catholicos did not want these individuals to be strong and to be very alert so that they would be able to figure out where Noah's Ark was located in the southern gorge. The second methodology that they used is they always waited until it was overcast, foggy, a light snowstorm in order to protect the location of the site. Also, many times they went during the evening or the very early morning, again in fog or in a snowstorm or when it was overcast, to prevent people from realizing where they were on Greater Mount Ararat. Third, when they got to the site, these individuals were only allowed a very short time to worship at worship areas in front of several entrances to the site. These individuals could peer inside Noah's Ark, but what they couldn't do is go into Noah's Ark because the Armenians wanted to preserve the interior. And this is very instructive because these individuals that went to Noah's Ark then deposited a votive gift, like a bowl filled with grain. And by doing this, they did what people have done for thousands of years. And these little worship areas outside the entrances of the ark are filled with pottery, mostly whole bowls, ranging from the pottery Neolithic to the modern era, to 1907, Armenian milk and wine jugs. So these individuals were able to go there, they were able to worship, but for a very short time, usually for 15 minutes, because what the Armenian guides did not want to happen is they didn't want the weather to suddenly clear up. So these individuals had an idea of where they were on the mountain so that they could potentially inform Turks or other individuals that were harmful or detrimental to the Armenian cause, the location of Noah's Ark, the national symbol of Armenians. So then after they worshipped at the site, the foreigners, either from the United States or Czarist Russia or Armenian elites, were led back down the mountain, usually in the dark or in the midst of fog or a light snowstorm, to the bottom of the mountain. And then they were told about their oath to keep this site a secret. By that time, the Armenians and the guides had totally fulfilled their promises of showing the Ark to these foreigners and Armenian elites. And then they were led to the local train station to return to their homes. Blessed, they had visited and they had seen the interior of Noah's Ark. And so by this method, which was repeated recently in terms of having people go there when it was very dark or cloudy or in the midst of fog, they were able to protect and keep the location of the site secret in the southern gorge of Greater Mount Ararat, despite the fact that the southern gorge of Greater Mount Ararat is able to be easily accessed, as opposed to where Armenians misdirected people away from the Ark in the southern gorge, saying that it was on the northern, eastern, or western part, which is filled with cliffs and very dangerous. So these are the methodologies that the Armenian guides used, as told by their descendants, to keep the Ark secret. Now, the problem is, in modern times, is that beginning in 1907, the Ark was looted, and a lot of these artifacts from these little worship areas were carried to what is now the Republic of Georgia. Recently, more artifacts have been taken from the site to Doğubayazıt, which is in eastern Turkey near Greater Mount Ararat. And the most difficult issue that the Ark confronts is decomposition. The glacial ice and permafrost has retreated 50%, and rot and decomposition and fungal growth has exploded in Noah's Ark. So the Turkish government has now protected the site, has made very concrete measures to protect the site. But now it's the job for conservationists to protect the wood architecture and the organic remains that comprise Noah's Ark. Hence, the need now is to engage in conservation and research efforts, which represents something very special. The apogee, or the height of end of the Stone Age, the late Epipaleolithic period, from 13,100 to 9,600 BC. But Noah's Ark represents also the beginning, or the progenitor site, the origin of the farming age, or the Neolithic Revolution, as well as being a foundational platform and religious context for three world religions, namely Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So it's very important that members of all three faiths and the scientific community protect this wonderful site that is important to three world religions and science, in that it's the transition point between the end of the Stone Age and the beginning of the Farming Age. Thank you.